Right, it's gotta be a Dodge. And by Purolator, the first name in filters for pure oil now and pure oil later, it's Purolator. It couldn't be a more beautiful afternoon here in Tennessee. We have 61 degrees, sunny skies, and hardly a cloud in the sky. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to Bristol International Raceway. A very exciting racetrack. It's only a half mile in length, and the turns are banked at 36 degrees. And with me is two-time Winston Cup champion Ned Jarrett. And Ned, this is a racetrack that can gobble up cars.
It certainly can. It is by far the fastest short track they run. High banks here, they really get into the turn at a fast rate of speed, which doesn't test the capacity of the car. So they got to concentrate completely every second of the way. And this is the first time that we have seen wheelbase cars on ESPN this year. NASCAR has a rule of less than 1 mile to have to run 105 wheelbase. That might be a problem for the drivers that don't have experience with that car.
Well, there are always drivers that come over to this series. Race, Grand National regulars qualified some of the Winston. As a matter of fact, Larry Pearson on the pole, Ed Barrier alongside in row number 1, and then Tommy Houston. So this could be an equalizer here this afternoon.
I think they love to get the Winston Cup drivers on the short track because that is one place that they can run well against them.
Let's get more on the pole sitter for this event as we go to the pit area and Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Bob. Sitting in the Chattanooga Choo Chevrolet, defending Busch Series champion Larry Pearson. And Larry, you bested some of the all-time greats in stock cars in qualifying. Earnhardt, Gant, Morgan Shepherd, some of those guys starting back behind you. You got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, we do. Bristol's always been good to us, and it's supposed to be real hot today, so we're going to got our car set up pretty tight. Hopefully, the racetrack will come to us when it gets hot. But those Winston Cup guys, you really got to worry about them being back there with you because they're going to come up and they're going to run you hard. So you just got to be ready for them.
One of the local Chevrolet dealers by the name of Dale Earnhardt says you bought some parts from him and didn't pay for them, so he's going to repossess them today.
Yeah, we were building a short track car, and we didn't have any tail light extensions, so got in touch with Dale, and he sent us some, and with all that money he's got, we didn't figure we had to pay him for them, so he said up here at Bristol, he's going to get them back either on the track or somewhere or another, so I'll be looking for him to come up behind me and get his tail lights.
Well, Earnhardt said he's going to knock those real tail light extensions off. Impressive qualifying run for Larry Pearson, over 117 miles per hour. So impressive, this car would actually start 4th in tomorrow's Winston Cup event.
Well, Jerry, the final qualifying for tomorrow's Winston Cup race taking place here in the last few moments before the start of this race. This is a car which qualified on the outside of the 8th row for today's Busch Grand National race to be driven by a Winston Cup driver. Now, the car was entered for Dave Marcus, but about 10 minutes before qualifying began yesterday, they discovered that Morgan Shepherd was available. Well, they couldn't get all of Dave Marcus's name off the car, but there was an M and an S in Marcus, which now stands for Morgan Shepherd, who will be the driver of this car. Sounds like a long shot starting in 16th, right? Morgan Shepherd has had only 3 laps in this race car. Don't bet on it. Morgan Shepherd has won a Busch Grand National race here at Bristol 4 of the last 5 years, Bob.
So the best of the Busch Grand National drivers are set to challenge the Bristol International High Banks, and we'll be right back with more of the Budweiser 200. Way where the command has just been given to start engines, and the Budweiser 200 is just moments away. Here now a more specific look at the track they'll be racing on. It is 0.533 miles in length, banking at 36 degrees. The track is 70 feet wide. We'll go 200 laps this afternoon, and they can get about 175 laps on a tank full of fuel, so pit stops will not be very numerous today unless, of course, we have a lot of yellow flags. Now, the starting lineup for today's event here at Bristol International Raceway. On the pole will be Larry Pearson, driving the number 21 Chattanooga Choo Chevy. He qualified at 117.057. Outside of that front row will be Ed Barrier in the number 90 Cox Wood Preserving Buick. In row number 2, it'll be Tommy Houston driving car number 6 and Dale Earnhardt in number 8. The third row consists of Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina in the number 7 Skoll Buick, and then Mike Alexander from Franklin, Tennessee in car number 84. In the fourth row, Mark Martin in number 06 and Brad Teague, a local driver from Johnson City, Tennessee. Going to row number 5, it'll be Rob Moroso in car number 25 and Tommy Ellis in number 99. The sixth row consists of number 32 Dale Jarrett and Jack Ingram in car number 11. Going to row number 7, it's Ronnie Silver in car number 14 and L.D. Ottinger in number 2. In the 15th starting position will be Rick Mast in car number 22 and Morgan Shepherd in 05. Starting 17th, Jimmy Hensley in car number 5 and Mike Swaim in 63. In the 10th row, it's Jimmy Spencer in 34 and Elton Sawyer in 42. The 11th row, Billy Standridge in 47 and Larry Pollard in 00. Going to row number 12, 07 Tommy Sigmund and number 30 Kyle Petty. In the 13th row, as the cars begin to move out, it's Kenny Burks in number 02 and Steve Grissom in 39. The 14th row, Joe Thurman in 24 and Patty Moise in car number 37. In the 15th row, car 79, driven by Bobby Donner, and number 12, Bobby Allison. And starting all alone in row number 16, our 31st starter for the afternoon is Bosco Lowe, driving car number 27. So the cars will be taking a couple of warm-ups, and we'll be back for the start of the Budweiser 200 in just a moment. On this Saturday afternoon from Bristol International Raceway, and we're getting set for the Busch Grand National drivers to compete 200 laps on this racetrack. And, Ned, we've seen many sprint car races here on ESPN, 30-lap events on the half mile, and I think this is just about the equivalent of that. 200 very quick laps on this racetrack, and you're going to go to the front, I would assume, right at the very beginning.
You want to get to the front as quick as you possibly can. They go around here in about 16 and a half seconds. In fact, Larry Pearson's qualifying speed was 16.39. They won't run quite that fast in the race itself. However, Ed Barrier, who's starting on the outside pole this morning, was turning some practice laps at about 16:20. As the pace car pulls off, we're about ready to go.
And the field is in turn number 4, looking for the green flag that will begin this afternoon's racing program. It's a slow start as Larry Pearson leads them down. They get the green flag, and we're underway.
Larry Pearson gets a good jump on the start, Bob.
Boy, he just waited for that green to fly, and then he stepped on the accelerator, got a good jump off the starting line, and he leads Ed Barrier as they're about to complete lap number 1 already. Starters through the first lap without incident, as into turn number 3 is Larry Pearson leading Ed Barrier. Tommy Houston is running third, followed by Dale Earnhardt. Then comes Harry Gant, Mike Alexander, Brad Teague, Mark Martin, Robbie Moroso, and Dale Jarrett.
It didn't take Ed Barrier long to make up that distance that Larry Pearson got on the jump from the start of the race, Bob. That car is really working and running fast. He's a young driver, relatively new to the viewers here on ESPN, but he's a fellow that we're going to hear a lot of in the future. His dad, Max Barrier, was a driver for many, many years back in the 60s.
Ed Barrier's from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He qualified about, a tenth of a second slower than Larry Pearson. As we have a crash up in turn number 2, that's Patty Moise, who has come in contact, and Brad Teague loses control here on the straightaway, slides to the inside and hits the wall. Patty Moise up in turn number 2, however, was the original cause of the yellow, and I didn't see what happened to Brad when they slowed down, maybe a car in front of him.
Evidently, as they came around to get the yellow flag, someone perhaps tapped him as he slowed down for the yellow flag, and he spun down to the inside. I don't think he hit the inside wall. If so, it was ever so slightly. I don't think he did that much damage to his car.
Patty Moise has pitted on the backstretch after the incident up there in turn number 2. I'm not sure whether she made contact with the wall or not. The car does not appear to be damaged. There is Brad Teague, who also spun here on the main straightaway, and as you can see, there is very little evidence of damage to that car either. So our first caution of the afternoon, but nothing for anything serious.
Well, Brad Teague will come into the pits, and certainly one thing they will do, Bob, is check the tires, because one problem with spinning out, and it looked like it had his brakes locked, is flat spotting. Let's go to Jerry Punch in his pits.
Brad Teague brings that Oldsmobile down pit road, and then, as you were saying, exactly what the problem is when they spin a car, they will flat spot a tire. That takes a really flat section of rubber off the tire. They came in, they will change 2 tires on the right side of Brad Teague's car. The signal being given to his crew that they'll go green next time by. So Brad Teague's car getting 2 right side tires, pulling the fenders away, and he'll be down and away.
Brad Teague moves away now from pit road and goes back out onto the racetrack, but we are under a caution flag for the first time in the Budweiser 200. Raceway in Tennessee, as we are just about to get a restart of this race. There's the leader, Larry Pearson, leading Ed Barrier down the backstretch. We're under caution because of a couple of spins. Patty Moise lost control over in turn number 2, and then Brad Teague had a problem here on the main straightaway, but no damage to any of the race cars, and 31 remain on the racetrack. The pace car has already pulled off, and Larry Pearson once again makes it a very slow start. Off of corner number 4, the green waves, and the acceleration is on, and we're back to racing on lap number 6.
Pearson does like to start him slow. Evidently, he has a transmission in that car that really lets him get a jump, but it doesn't take Ed Barrier long to get back to him.
A lot of close competition out there. There you can see the first 4 cars are nose to tail on the raceway, and the 4th car there in line is Dale Earnhardt.
And they're coming up very quickly on Kyle Petty in the Ford number 30, and evidently he has a problem of some sort in getting left here in the very early stages of the race.
The car just did not want to go when the green flew, so Larry Pearson now moves alongside and laps Kyle Petty. Running in 4th position in that black and silver car number 8. Harry Gant running behind Dale Earnhardt. Then comes Mike Alexander, Mark Martin, Dale Jarrett, Rob Moroso, Ronnie Silver, Jack Ingram, and L.D. Ottinger, as the leader continues to be Larry Pearson, and he's pulled out now to about an 8 or 10 car length advantage on second running Ed Barrier.
Larry drives this track very well. He won the last Busch Grand National race here last August. He likes this racetrack. It's a track that you have to drive very aggressively on, and also very smooth at the same time, Bob, and he has both of those qualities.
There's Tommy Houston in car number 6. He's running in 3rd position right behind Ed Barrier. Tommy started this race in 3rd position in that Southern Biscuit Flour Buick, car number 6, qualifying at a little over 116 miles an hour.
Houston now making a bid for the 2nd position.
Inside in turn number 3, and Barrier's car washes to the outside, so Tommy Houston takes over 2nd. Here's Dale Earnhardt taking 3rd. Harry Gant moves to the inside, goes into 4th, and Ed Barrier is losing positions on the outer groove.
Boy, you get out of line, although you can run side by side on this racetrack very easily because of the high banks, but still there's one groove always that you can run faster than anywhere else on the racetrack, and in the early part of the race they're all going to run in that groove when they possibly can, but it looks like Barrier's car is a little bit loose. The back end is not sticking as well as it should, and Jerry Punch has a comment on that.
They were awfully concerned in the Ed Barrier pit this morning, man, that they were going to show a lot of tire temperature. In fact, they did blister a right front and left rear tire in the practice session this morning, so they're very, very concerned about a lot of tire temperature on those Hoosier tires that Barrier's running on. That may be one of the problems he's seeing right now.
Well, in this race, there were 7 cars that began on Hoosier tires. Morgan Shepherd, Mark Martin, Bosco Lowe, Mike Swain, Brad Teague, Bobby Donner, and Ed Barrier. All the others on the Goodyears. Now, Dale Earnhardt is trying to find the opportunity to move into 2nd position as he is right on the back bumper of Tommy Houston.
The yellow car we see coming into the picture is Mike Alexander. He's the current point leader on the Busch Grand National Circuit. His car looks a little bit loose in the turns right now, but Mike likes to drive a car that way. He likes the high banks here at Bristol. He has a lot of experience on this type of track, so he'll manhandle it around here, even though he's one of the smallest drivers on the circuit.
He goes into this race about 60 points ahead of Dale Jarrett in the Busch Grand National point standings. Good racing here between Harry Gant in the green and white car number 7 and Mike Alexander in the 84. And this is for 4th position. Gant has 4th, Alexander 5th. Now some traffic being lapped in turn number 4. There's the leader, Larry Pearson. You can see the lead that he has over Tommy Houston.
It has dwindled some now, Bob. Tommy Houston has caught up to Pearson. He had gone out to about a 2.5 lead, but now they've had him inside, and Earnhardt following right along behind Tommy Houston, who is Dale Earnhardt's wife's uncle. Teresa was Hal Houston's daughter, or is Hal Houston's daughter, and Hal, of course, Tommy's brother.
And there is Dale moving to the inside of Tommy Houston down the backstretch. Look at this. They sorted out, and Earnhardt gets the position position. Look at Gant move alongside of Tommy Houston, and Gant goes into third. So some positions being shuffled here as Tommy Houston got out of line. As a matter of fact, he's all the way back to fifth position as Mike Alexander went to fourth.
Only a driver like Dale Earnhardt could make a move like that, Bob, and get by with it.
He did it actually using a slower car that was right ahead of him, but somehow he managed to gain the positions.
And I think that he realized that Tommy might back off and let him have a little bit of running room there. It's too early in the race to be taking any unnecessary chances.
So there is Dale Earnhardt in the Goodwrench Chevrolet, a celebrity Chevrolet that he's driving here this afternoon in second position. And he's got about, as you can see, the interval here between first and second. Larry Pearson still with a comfortable lead at this point.
Pearson's car still working very well. He can drive it where he needs to on the racetrack. He's taking it in low, lets it drift up a little bit in the center of the turn, and then brings it off low. And that's the fast way around this racetrack. Of course, as it goes on, they get a little more rubber and oil and grease on the track. You will see some of the cars start sliding up in the turns.
So we have a Grand National regular leading, but here is the battle for second position between a couple of Winston Cup drivers. Dale Earnhardt in the number 8 and Harry Gant in the number 7. And then back and forth another one of the Busch Grand National regulars, Mike Alexander. A crash up in turn number 4 as Mike Swaim and Steve Grissom spin. There's also a car spinning behind that. The number 02 machine driven by Kenny Burks has also spun to the infield. And there is damage, very little damage to the number 02 car of Kenny Burks, but Mike Swaim's machine has a little bit of damage to it. There it is. You can see some damage on the left side of it in the front quarter panel. So Mike Swaim, who was the pole sitter in the Busch Grand National race at Daytona earlier this year, will come toward pit road.
And you can see as he spun, the other car just getting into him, but Mike Swaim spun as he started off of turn 4 and slapped the wall pretty hard. And there's the 02 car down on the inside.
The number 39 car of Steve Grissom was slightly involved, but don't think he hit anything. He continues on. The pit crew checking the Mike Swaim car, and they're going to take it behind the wall there. Yeah, the Steve Grissom car did sustain some damage, and he's going to have some sheet metal work done to that also. So our second caution flag comes out because of an accident up in turn number 4. The leader continues to be Larry Pearson. Dale Earnhardt is second, followed by Harry Gant, Mike Alexander, and Tommy Houston. We'll be right back. Once again on lap number 31. Here's the green flag, and Larry Pearson once again gets a good jump as the green comes out. We're back to racing. Into turn number 1, Earnhardt, Harry Gant, Mike Alexander, Tommy Houston, Mark Martin, Dale Jarrett, and Ed Barrier follow Larry Pearson.
Earnhardt moves up very quickly on Pearson after Pearson got a good jump once again. Pearson's car very smooth still in the turns, Bob. That's the way he likes it. And his dad, David Pearson, of course, knows a great deal about a race car and how to set it up for the high banks here at Bristol, because David Pearson had a lot of success here himself as a driver.
Larry Pearson, the defending Busch Grand National champion, but is 13th in points this year going into this event with only 2 top 10 finishes. He was 6th at Hickory and 7th at Darlington. Now a battle for second place comes along as Harry Gant moves to the inside to challenge Dale Earnhardt. And as they go into turn number 1, they look like they touch. Gant may have the slight advantage coming off the corner, but Earnhardt steps on the accelerator down the backstretch and pulls even with and now moves ahead of Harry Gant just slightly. But Gant and Earnhardt putting on quite a show here.
And that's not unexpected at all, because both of these are very hard chargers. Gant driving a car that's built right here in Bristol, Tennessee, and he was one of the favorites, certainly.
And Mike Alexander watching all of the action ahead of him, saying, well, you guys go ahead and duke it out, and I'll be there to take your positions when you guys crash. But at the moment, it's Gant and Earnhardt doing some fine, fair driving and not making contact with each other and doing some very good driving.
Ed Whitaker is the owner of the car number 7 that Harry Gant drives. Of course, Harry is the sponsor of the car that he drives on the Winston Cup circuit, the Stoll 50.
Harry Gant now is second, but oh, it's ever so close. He moves out by a half a car length coming off the corner, but it seems like that Earnhardt can make up the distance on the straightaways. Now they're literally side by side in the battle for second position. As as we watch this battle for second, Larry Pollard in the number 00 car has made a pit stop but comes back out onto the racetrack.
If that would have been an unscheduled pit stop, he's the son-in-law of Harry Gant, who's trying to take over that second position, but Earnhardt just simply won't give it up.
And Mike Alexander, as we mentioned, is right there in that yellow car, number 84, watching all of the action ahead of him. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 as Larry Pearson has a lead and is pulling away from everybody as these other drivers battle for position.
And that does make a difference. When they were running side by side, Bob, they dropped off about a half a second a lap, and that allowed Larry Pearson just to run away out there all by himself. In fact, he has a little bit of lap traffic, but the real race is for second through the 9th position.
That's right. There are 7 cars that are running nose to tail on the raceway. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Gant appears to have a little faster car than Earnhardt, but Earnhardt is using the racetrack to his advantage, and he knows how to do that.
Now Gant pulling up on Earnhardt once again as Mike Alexander, the number 84 car.
Put a little bumper to Gant, didn't he? Just a little bit.
They're definitely trading paint. Moving up on some of the slower cars, they'll be passing the number 79 blue car driven by Bobby Dotter, who started in 29th position.
Earnhardt, it looks like, is trying to use a groove that we'll see a lot of here tomorrow in the Valladale Meats 500 Winston Cup race. The cars, as the track gets a little slicker, they go in and they slide high and make sort of a V out of the corners, and it looks like that he's trying to make that kind of a groove now, but he can't afford to get too high because he has Gant he knows will jump right under him.
That's Morgan Shepherd, whose car is not up to full song. As a matter of fact, Morgan is bringing that car not only into the pit area, but behind the wall. So the car that Larry talked about in our opening, that was originally assigned to Dave Marcus, but was taken over by Morgan Shepherd, has dropped out of competition as Patty Moe spins once again in corner number 2.
Right in front of the leaders, but she was on the low side of the racetrack, so they were all able to get around. And just as she was spinning on one end of the racetrack, the car number 14 of Ronnie Silver had slowed on the racetrack and was about to come into the pit, so this will be a break for him. Ronnie has a brand new sponsor on the side of that race car this week, Blanton's Tractor Trailer Training Centers out of North Carolina, sponsoring his car. And here's Patty Moise having her troubles here today.
And there is damage to the rear end of the race car as Patty Moise, here's the closing stages of that accident.
Just about the same spot she spun earlier in the race, Bob, so she's having a little trouble over there.
And you can see all of the leaders going to the high side, but getting around safely. So our third caution period of the afternoon comes out on lap number 47. Larry Pearson continues to be the leader of the Budweiser 200 from Bristol International Raceway. Afternoon. Blue skies up above, hardly a cloud in the sky as we are 48 laps into the Busch Grand National race here at Bristol International Raceway with Larry Pearson the leader and the green coming out after our third caution flag of the afternoon, the green on lap number 49. Just before we went to break and before Patty Moise spun for the second time up in turn number 2, Morgan Shepherd, we told you, went behind the wall. The reason out on that car, an engine failure. And Bobby Allison has also pulled out of competition in his machine.
Dale Earnhardt trying to make a move on the outside of Larry Pearson there for a moment. He knows that Larry's going to use that low groove as much as he possibly can, but it's still working to Larry's advantage, at least at this point of the race.
And Harry Gant in the number 7 car right behind Dale Earnhardt in 3rd, Mike Alexander in 4th. Those 4 cars have moved away just a little bit from the 5th place car driven by Tommy Houston. Back of Tommy is Mark Martin, then Dale Jarrett, Robbie Moroso, Jack Ingram, L.B. Ottinger, Rick Mast, and the number 42 car driven by Elton Sawyer. 2nd and 3rd right here, Dale Earnhardt and Harry Gant.
We mentioned earlier that Ronnie Silver was having a problem just as the caution was coming out. He since has brought the car into the pits, or is now in the pits with that automobile. So Ronnie hoping to make an impressive showing here for his new sponsor, having some sort of a problem. They had to hood up on the car momentarily.
Earnhardt, as you can see, he had had 2 top 10 finishes in Grand National competition this year. He was 8th at Hickory and 4th in our most recent telecast of a Busch Grand National race, that being at Darlington a couple of weeks ago. He finished 4th in that race.
But he still has Harry Gant hounding him. He's going to stay right there working on him, and if Earnhardt makes the least little mistake, he knows that he'll be around him.
Looks like that Pearson, without question, has the fastest car on the racetrack, though, Ned. As Gant and Dale Earnhardt get hooked up in a battle, it seems like that Larry is able to just move away from them.
His car is really working well, Pearson's car is, and that's one of the things that it takes here at the Bristol International Raceway is a car that really handles well.
There's 7th place Dale Jarrett in car number 32, the son of Ned. Rob Moroso, who had a fine performance at Darlington a couple of weeks ago, is right behind Dale. And then following the number 25 machine is Jack Ingram in number 11. 7th, 8th, and 9th.
All running very close. You can see the yellow car of Mike Alexander not too far ahead of them. So the first 8 or 9 cars are not too far apart here.
Rob Moroso, car number 25, has had a good year in Grand National racing. 3 top 10 finishes, and as we indicated, he had a fine performance at Darlington a couple of weeks ago. In fact, would have, I think, finished in 3rd position had it not been for a problem on the very last lap of the race in which he had to avoid a slower car ahead of him that caused him to slide up toward the outside wall, but he still finished 5th in that event.
Bob, as we're watching Dale Jarrett holding off Rob Moroso at this point of the race at least, this will be Dale's last race of consecutive starts in this Busch Grand National Series. He and Tommy Houston are the only 2 drivers who have started every race since this series was formed back in 1982. But Dale's commitment now to the Winston Cup Series will not permit him to run all of the short track races. As someone mentioned a moment ago, Mike Swain said he'll get them in Hampton, Virginia. That's the next race for these drivers. Of course, the Winston Cup drivers will be in Talladega that weekend. So Dale, this will be his last consecutive race. So Tommy Houston will be the only driver then that will have run in every event. And Dale does have quite a commitment in Winston Cup competition, competing for 2 car owners in the entire year. And that being Cale Yarborough for 19 events and Hoss Ellington and the Portaloo Buick for the other 10 events. And in tomorrow's race here at Bristol, Dale will be behind the wheel of the car owned by Cale Yarborough. Back to the leaders now. That's Larry Pearson in car number 21, leading Dale Earnhardt and Harry Gant. And as you can see, the interval now has shrunk, and Earnhardt is within just a couple of car lengths. He has caught up to Larry Pearson. Using a little different line, you can see Earnhardt is moving a little higher now. That's the groove he wants to run. If he can get the car to working right there, he likes to go in, slide the car up about the 3rd lane on the racetrack, and then bring it back down to the low side, and he's beginning to make that groove work, Bob. See, it gives him pretty good momentum as he comes off of the turn. Once he gets up, in fact, it's almost downhill. Once you slide up the high banks here at Bristol and get it turned, it's almost downhill coming off of the turn. Now the cars begin to work some of the slower traffic. They lap Patty Moise in car number 37 and the bright purple car, number 07, driven by Tommy Sigmund. As we indicated, Bristol International Raceway has a terrible reputation of gobbling up cars, and we asked Larry Pearson about that.
No, it's not. This is a tough racetrack. It's a half a mile, and the speeds are well over 100 miles an hour, and it's a very fast racetrack, and things can really happen in a hurry. But in years past, Bristol's been good to us. We won a race here last year, and we finished well here at Bristol in years past. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, he's got his hands full right now as Dale Earnhardt has once again drawn alongside down the front straightaway. It's still Larry Pearson with the advantage, but only by about a half a car length. As they come out of turn number 2 and down the backstretch, the slower car in front of them, driven by Billy Standridge, car number 47. And into the 4th turn down the straightaway once again. It is still Pearson leading Earnhardt and Gant, but it's a great close race. And Standridge holding his own out there as he's about to go a lap down. Of course, naturally, he would like to not go a lap down, but now Pearson moves to the inside of him. Well, does he? But Earnhardt moves to the outside of Pearson while that's going on. Boy, you could see Dale just waiting for the chance to Larry to go inside, and he was saying, go ahead and go down there, Pearson. I'm going to the high side. It almost worked for him, but he couldn't get it accomplished, and there's contact between Earnhardt and Billy Standridge, and that's going to take both cars spinning toward the inside. And Tommy Houston also, the white car back to the right side
side of the screen was involved as well. Earnhardt gets his car righted and comes around. He'll try to keep from going a lap down. He might not have, other than making contact with Stanwich. Stanwich, I think, went out and hit the wall and came back into Earnhardt is the way that it looked. We'll see a replay hopefully in a moment.
Doesn't appear to be much damage to the Earnhardt car except on the right rear. There is the slight damage, and here's a replay.
Okay, Pearson goes to the inside of Stanwich, and Earnhardt does bump the car 47, and he goes into the wall. The back end does and comes back into Earnhardt, slams him around. Harry Gant making a very good move down on the inside without hitting either car. And Tommy Houston, you can see him coming into the picture. Of course, he had to slow down, and he spun around as well, trying to avoid the spins in front of him.
But Mike Alexander made it through okay, and Earnhardt did manage to get the car righted and did not lose a lap. But as we indicated, there is some slight damage on the right rear of that race car. As to whether it will affect the running of the car, well, we'll have to wait and see. The yellow out on lap number 71 at the Budweiser 200. Raceway for ESPN Speed World on this Saturday afternoon. Busch Grand National Racing. The green flag waves and we are underway once again. Lap number 81, we resume competition as Larry Pearson jumps out into the lead once again. Gant running second. Mike Alexander is third, and Gant now sneaks up on the rear end of that Larry Pearson car.
Well, Dale Earnhardt was a buffer between he and Larry Pearson before. Gant was not able to get around Earnhardt. Let's see what he can do with Pearson now.
15 cars are on the lead lap. There is Harry Gant in the Skull Bandit, car number 7. And look at the competition out here. That's Dale Earnhardt in the black and silver number 8 trying to thread his way through traffic, 3 abreast through turn number 1 alongside Patty Moise. That's L.D. Ottinger and Jack Ingram ahead of Dale Earnhardt.
Well, that was some close competition. Earnhardt don't mind sticking it in there. Wherever it needs to go, he'll put it there.
This is Dale Earnhardt's kind of racetrack. Loves to get out there and mix it up. And he's trying to get back up toward the front once again after that incident with Billy Standridge. Car does not appear to have suffered any problem, any slowdown because of the accident.
I think that he very wisely did not lock the brakes down when he was spinning around, and that would not flat spot the tires. So, as you say, it doesn't appear to have done much damage because he's trying to make his way back to the front.
There's L.D. Ottinger in car number 2. L.D. began this race from 14th position.
L.D., a former national champion of this division. Here's Earnhardt as we see him trying to... L.D. bumps Jack Ingram just a little bit, and Earnhardt dives down on the inside of L.D., taking advantage of that slowdown period. We see they're coming up on Patty Moise in the Crisco car number 37. Earnhardt moving right on the inside of Jack Ingram, but the hole closed up on him before he got to the next turn.
This is the battle for 7th and 8th position. Jack Ingram is in 7th. Then L.D. Ottinger in 8th. And Dale Earnhardt is in 9th. And behind Dale Earnhardt is the 99 car of Tommy Ellis.
And we've had a change of position up near the front. Mark Martin has now moved into the 3rd position. Dale Jarrett into 4th, and Rob Moroso into 5th as Mike Alexander has dropped back.
And it doesn't appear as if Dale is having much success here in his march toward the front because, well, just as I say that, now he moves alongside L.D. Ottinger in turn number 2. However, L.D. holds off the challenge.
L.D. going a little bit high in the turns. That gives Earnhardt some running room on the inside, but as we pointed out earlier, Earnhardt sort of likes to run the high groove, so if LD is using that up, it makes it a little tough for Earnhardt to get there, although he still dogs him down on the inside.
And Tommy Ellis is right there waiting for the break. He moves to the outside of Earnhardt now, and now we have a battle for 9th position as Ellis in the red number 99 and Earnhardt in the silver and black number 8 go at it.
And right there's another fellow that don't mind mixing it up with him, Tommy Ellis. He's a former national champion of this division, and wherever there's a hole, he don't mind sticking his nose in there either.
That car down on the apron of the racetrack, he just went around there in turn number 3 is Mike Swain, who was involved in an early crash. He has his car back out there on the racetrack, but running at a very slow speed. We watch this high-speed chase involving Ottinger and Earnhardt.
Earnhardt, I'm not sure that car's working quite as well as it did before, Bob.
I don't think it is, Ned. just not moving toward the front as he would if the car were up to full song.
I think that he had to do some damage to the tires, if no more than just heat them up and wear some rubber off of them, but he would like to go at least to the halfway point before he can change. As Larry Nuber pointed out, they can change all 4 tires one time during the race, but he wants to wait as late in the race and do that as he possibly can. 15 cars are still running on the lead lap.
Mark Martin's car is slowing on the racetrack, and Mark was in 3rd position when this problem occurred. He brings it down to the apron of the track and is headed for pit road. A tough break for Mark Martin in the Ford as things have gone wrong on that car. This is the Ford V6. As a matter of fact, all the cars in this race, with the exception of one, a V6, the only V8 driven by Joe Thurman. Let's go to Larry Nuber.
Well, Bob, not only is it a V6, remember, this is the first time, as you pointed out. He has won that race on ESPN with the V8. He just couldn't get enough parts. Ford finally provided it for him. This race was kind of a giveaway. They didn't really expect, as I talked to them yesterday, they were going to do well today. I think the car was performing better than they thought, but unfortunately, it was a short day.
Any speculation, Ned, on what might have happened with that car?
Well, evidently he blistered a tire because they came in and changed tires. He was beginning to slip around on the racetrack quite a bit. The car was not handling as well as it was earlier in the race, and so they had to come in and change tires.
We'll wait and see if he can get that car back up to the speed that he was running before the apparent tire injury. Meanwhile, back up front, we still have Larry Pearson leading. He has led all the way so far, and Earnhardt is still behind LD Oettinger and Jack Ingram, and having very little success getting by LD.
LD certainly knows how to use up the racetrack, and he works it to his advantage. It's his as long as he's running in front of another car, and they're running for position, and he's doing a good job of staying out in front of Earnhardt.
And Earnhardt still has his hands full with Tommy Ellis, who's behind him in the red car number 99.
There's a problem on the car number 24 that some of the front runners are coming up on. Dale Jarrett coming up on car number 24. There's smoke coming from that car. Now we see Earnhardt going on the outside of LD Oettinger.
Just like a shot out of a cannon, Earnhardt moves to the high side and passes LD. Now he has his sights set on Jack Ingram.
And you can see the 24 car down on the inside. He did get off of the track with smoke coming from that car. Joe Thurman, of course, driving it.
Now Earnhardt closes in on Jack Ingram in his march toward the front once again. Again, Dale Earnhardt involved in an accident with Billy Standridge earlier in the race. That's Mark Martin in the 06 car that's ahead of the number 11 machine of Jack Ingram. And Mark, apparently, the only thing wrong with that car was the tire, because that car is at full speed once again.
Yes, he's back up the running. In fact, he's running, it looks like, a little faster than Jack Ingram is running right now, so the car seems to be working well for him.
But you can't make a pit stop here under green conditions and avoid losing a lap. Mark Martin down a lap on the field.
Now there are only 13 cars on the lead lap as Larry Pearson really putting the pressure on. They've lapped the car number 22 of Rick Mast, who's running in the 14th position.
And the next car they will be lapping, the 13th running machine, is that of Jimmy Hensley in car number 5. Their second place, Harry Gant. The leader, Larry Pearson, has a little over the halfway point of the Budweiser 200. Nuber and Jerry Punch back at Bristol International Raceway for Busch Grand National Racing on a Saturday afternoon. And here is Dale Earnhardt, who is continuing to move toward the front.
Well, he moved around Mark Martin. Mark Martin is having some other problems right now. In fact, he has slowed considerably on the racetrack as we saw Earnhardt zip around him. So did a lot of other race cars as well.
Dale Earnhardt did pass Jack Ingram while we were in that commercial break, and so he moves up another spot. But Dale Earnhardt still has a lot of racetrack, or a lot of time to make up here as we are just past the halfway break. There's a tire out on the racetrack. I believe it's off the Mark Martin car.
It is indeed off of Mark Martin's right front of his car as he came into the pits. We said he was having some problems. He had slowed dramatically on the racetrack, and he felt the tire about to come off. And as he came off, coming into the pits, the tire did come off and went down the racetrack. Made it on half a lap around the racetrack. Did pretty good as it went into the first turn. Got down on the inside and heads towards the infield. Out of the way.
And we have somebody going out to retrieve it. So the caution flies once again for the 5th time this afternoon. There the Mark Martin crew is replacing the Hoosier tire on the right front. And Mark Martin rolls back out onto the racetrack once again. So a couple of tough breaks here for Mark, tire-related problems. And he, while at one time was in a battle for the win here, running in third position, he has fallen off the pace.
And the leaders coming into the pits. No surprise, Bob, that they would come in at this point. They've gone past the halfway point of the race.
Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, the Chattanooga 2 Chevrolet comes in, and this crew is going to try something that you just about cannot do in a short track, and that is change 4 tires. They thought they might. Well, now they're shaking their head. No, they're going to change 2 right-side tires. Dale Jarrett's also in changing right-side tires for Port Louis Oldsmobile. Here's Larry Pearson back down. They're going to change left-side tires. Yes, they are going to change 4 tires on Pearson. Ricky Pearson, the left front tire. That's Mike Hill, who works for Junior Johnson and Terry Labonte, the Budweiser crew, changing the left rear tire. There's the pace car. Watching the car is Pearson's car now, still on the jacks. Left side tires are on. Great pit stop. 28.5 seconds for Larry Pearson.
And that's plenty of time for him to get back out on the racetrack without losing a lap, since we are under caution. And there is Dale Jarrett, who also moves back out onto the racetrack.
And he also changed 4 tires, too. So good work by John Irvin and his crew on that car. And as Jerry Punch pointed out, even though they're running under caution, it is very difficult on a track of this size to change 4 tires and not lose a lap. But both of those crews did it, and did it in very fine fashion. Here's Jack Ingram in the pits in the Skoal Bandit Chevrolet. Jack just simply caught up to the field before he came in, so they're changing right side tires on his car. And here's Earnhardt after getting a tire change.
And also some fuel in that car as Jerry Punch once again reports from the pit area.
Jack Ingram's crew trying to do what they saw Larry Pearson's crew and Dale Jarrett's crew do. That's change 4 tires. Owen Edwards, Roy Lee Jones, 2 of the men have been with Jack Ingram for many, many years through 5 national championships. Putting these left side tires on, off the jack. Chevrolet heads back on the track. Good pit stop for Ingram's crew.
You got to hand it to these pit crews because they're not as accustomed to changing tires as much as the Winston Cup crews are, and we saw some fine performances down there.
Yes, we really did. Now, some of them will use some of their Winston Cup crew members, such as Dale Jarrett. Some of the Cale Yarborough Hardest crew is helping his crew there today, so that gives them a little experience as well as speeds up the pit stops, too.
Well, Harry Gant now is the leader of this race, but he did not make a pit stop. And we'll be back with more of the Budweiser 200 right after this. Out to go racing again as Harry Gant has the lead, but he did not make a pit stop. Was that a smart thing to do at this point, Ned?
In my opinion, Bob, it was not a smart thing to do. However, his car seems to be working very well, but most everybody felt that they did need to change tires sometime during the race, and if you did that just past the halfway mark, then you'd have no problems the rest of the way. But Harry Gant chose to stay out there. Maybe he'll go all the way. Maybe he won't even make a pit stop.
That remains to be seen. In the meantime, we are back to competition, and Brad Teague in the number 75 car is in second position now with, I believe, Ed Barrier in the third spot. The number 00 car that is ahead of Brad Teague and Tommy Houston is a lapped machine. So Brad Teague, car number 75, I believe, is on the lead lap.
Yes, I think he is. And he has, even though he spun out early in the race, he went to the back of the pack, but he has stayed in the lead lap since then. Larry Pearson is back in some very heavy traffic. So is Dale Jarrett and those that made pit stops. Dale Earnhardt, they're all back in very heavy traffic trying to pick their way back up through the pack. You see Mike Alexander in the yellow car. He only changed right side tires on his car.
And he moves alongside Ed Barrier as we go back and look at the progress of Larry Pearson. Larry taking the high road now here in the third and fourth corners. And that is L.D. Otcher in number 2 right ahead of Larry. Larry looks to the inside now going into turn number 1. But still, we have some contact off of corner number 2 as somebody was slow coming off the corner and some paint traded. However, nobody in trouble.
This is the first time today that Larry Pearson has had to pass into the front-running cars, Bob, those in the lead lap, because he had led every lap and sort of had the racetrack to himself out there. It's a little tougher now as he's lapping the cars that are in the lead lap.
Well, let's take a look at what happened there in the second corner a lap ago as some traffic got slowed down ahead of Larry.
That's Jimmy Hensley's car, the yellow car that got bumped by Rob Moroso in car number 25, and that slowed the other 2 cars behind them. L.D. Ottinger had to back off the accelerator momentarily, and Pearson did too.
Couple of problems for Mark Martin has eliminated himself from a win. Let's get a further story from Dr. Jerry Punch.
take a look at the wheel on the right front of Mark Martin's car. This is the one that came off as it came through turn 4. The wheel just came apart. Here's the center part of the wheel, and it's extremely hot. I'm trying to hold it with a cloth here, and it's steaming. But the center of the wheel completely broke away. The wheel sheared off and came rolling down the racetrack. Fortunately, no one was injured. This wheel now being impounded by NASCAR for official inspection after the race.
So that was Mark's second problem. And look at, there's Larry Pearson banging into Jimmy Hensley there at the third turn. Larry is saying, get over, guys. I've got a fast car, and I need to get toward the front.
There is really some heavy traffic and, as you say, some tank-changing place out there on the racetrack. And not unusual on this type of a racetrack. Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett going through the same thing, just a little ways behind Larry Pearson. But Pearson driving very aggressively as he comes back up through the front, working on Rob Moroso now.
And this is just a prelude of what you'll see tomorrow as we present Winston Cup Racing live at 1 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow here at Bristol.
Well, here we see Pearson trying to follow Jimmy Hensley on the outside, but that didn't work. He bumped right into Hensley. Then he tries to move to the inside and does so after he gets Hensley out of shape.
Now there's Ed Barrier in number 90, Rob Moroso in 25, and Larry Pearson in 21. And once again, Larry making contact with Rob Moroso, and the car getting a little bit squirrely out of turn number 4, but everybody holds on and keeps the car headed in the right direction. And there is Dale Jarrett, meanwhile, who has come out of almost nowhere, and Dale Earnhardt, who are challenging and now passing Larry Pearson.
Well, and they took advantage of the situation of Pearson trying to move by on the high side. They just simply moved to the low side of the racetrack and went right on through. But now they got Rob Moroso to contend with, who Pearson was not successful in passing.
And again, we'll take a replay of Larry Pearson bumping into Rob Moroso.
Yes, he does. He gets his left front fender in there, gets Moroso a little out of shape. That allowed Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett to catch up to them. And while Pearson was on the high side of the racetrack, Jarrett gone under LD Oettinger. Here now is Dale Earnhardt moving under Dale Jarrett, and Pearson right back up on the back bumper of Jarrett. A lot of good racing back there.
Just some great competition. Earnhardt now looks to the high side of Rob Moroso coming off the 4th corner. He's unable to pick up that position. At the moment, Barrier is running in that 4th position. Rob Moroso is in 5th, and then Dale Earnhardt. And there's Larry Pearson.
Pearson has now moved back around Dale Jarrett. Pearson still has one of the faster cars on the racetrack. He just got in a situation there, Bob, that he just simply couldn't get out of. He got a little frustrated there for a moment, and it cost him some positions, but now he's settled back down and going to try to pick them back up.
Earnhardt on the high side of the racetrack. Rob Moroso in the red number 25, right ahead of Dale, and now Larry and Dale move side by side once again. While all this is going on, the lead continues to be held by Harry Gant.
And Gant has pulled away to a good margin.
While the battle for position goes on behind him, Gant streaks away with Mike Alexander running in 2nd position, and there is almost a half a straightaway advantage of Harry Gant over Mike Alexander.
Running in the 3rd position now is Brad Teague, and 4th is the car number 90 that we see at the front of this pack. And in 5th place, Rob Moroso, Dale Earnhardt 6th, Larry Pearson trying to take that away from him, but Pearson 7th and Dale Jarrett in 8th place.
Well, let's get a summary of the most recent pit stop activity that we had. Larry Pearson went in 1st, came out in 7th. Gant went from 2nd to 1st. Dale Jarrett really suffered the most in that most recent series of pit stops, going in 3rd, coming out 9th. Now you can see that Rob Moroso dropped a couple of positions, and Mike Alexander stayed the same. But meanwhile, Alexander has come up through the field and is now in 2nd. So Dale Jarrett hurt most on that most recent series of pit stops. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
One of the reasons they took a little extra time here in the Dale Jarrett pit is this tire right here, the left rear tire that John Irvin and the crew took off. They're a little bit concerned. After 109 laps, this tire was beginning to separate a little bit. Early blistering. See these little holes in the tire where the rubber was starting to bubble up and come away. There's quite a bit of concern about the Port Loup Oldsmobile and Dale Jarrett after seeing this tire come off the car.
So that is the reason why Dale Jarrett was a little bit slower coming out of the pits than some of the others. Jarrett, however, is right in the thick of things here in this battle involving several cars for position.
They still have not been able to, Larry Pearson has not been able to move around Rob Moroso. Rob is really doing a great job out there. The 20-year-old just hanging on to that 4th position and not giving to anyone.
Moroso has a great future ahead of him in stock car racing. His last 2 performances have been very, very impressive. There's L.D. Ottinger, who is behind Dale Jarrett now, as this string of cars comes out of corner number 4 and onto the front stretch once again, passing Tommy Sigmund in the number 07 machine.
Earnhardt still stays right on the back bumper of Larry Pearson, just looking for an opportunity, I guess you would say. He looks to the inside, but Pearson very strong coming off the turns. Ben Barnes builds the engines, the V6 engines that Pearson runs in the Chattanooga June Chevrolet, but now Earnhardt trying to take advantage down on the inside. Mike Alexander has a problem in car number 84. Mike was running in the second position.
Mike Alexander is low on the racetrack. There he is spinning in turn number 4 to the inside, however. Mike Alexander, who is running second, has a problem, and he is off the racetrack. At the moment, yes, we do have a yellow. I thought maybe they were not going to wave the yellow flag because that car is off the racetrack. However, now the yellow comes out, and the field's speed is reduced once again.
Well, now what will Harry Gant do? Will he make a pit stop? He had pulled away. He didn't want to see this caution at this point, Bob, because he had a very good margin of almost a half a lap on the field, and we'll see whether he's going to stay or not. Let's go to Larry Newbert about this.
Annette, I was just talking with Jim Harmon, Harry Gant's crew chief. Jim says that from the cockpit, Harry says, hey, I don't want to stop. The longer I run, the better this car seems to feel. I think that I can go the distance. Jim, what do you think? Jim and Carter and Ed Whitaker talked it over. They said, yeah, we think so. Harry says it's not worth taking the chance to come in and pit when things are going so well. They're going to try and go the distance if all things remain as they are now.
Well, you remember they tried to go the distance at Rockingham back earlier in the year, and they miscalculated there. Harry Gant had a good lead, but he saw it evaporate as he ran out of fuel. Maybe he can make it today.
Well, we'll answer that question in a few more laps as we are at Bristol International Raceway for the Budweiser 200, and we'll be right back. Bristol International Raceway, because of Mike Alexander's spin down in corner number 4. The track has been cleaned up, and we should go back racing in just a moment. Harry Gant slowed down there for a moment, but as you can see now, he's pulling alongside the pace car, actually passing the pace car, at least for the moment. And
there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Something wrong with that car. I don't know what the situation is. He's pulling completely off the racetrack now.
Well, we'll check on this situation, as it appears as if Harry Gant may be coming into the pits for a stop. Yeah, he is moving toward his pit in the backstretch.
As they were being given the signal for one more lap to go, so maybe they decided, hey, we might need a little bit of fuel, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They put in some fuel on the car rather than take the chance.
Well, they are going to penalize Harry Gant a lap because he passed the pace car.
He did, indeed, going into the pits. He passed the pace car before he got to the entrance of the pit. So, boy, that's a very costly mistake by Harry Gant.
Boy, it sure is. Gant was in a position to win this race. Speculation, of course, from Larry and from the crew members that Harry might elect to go the entire distance, but instead he decides he's going to have some fuel. He comes in and in the meantime loses a lap because he passed the pace car. The lead is held by Rob Moroso in car number 25, and a scramble behind him as Dale Earnhardt and Larry Pearson head toward the front.
Well, Larry Pearson went very high. In fact, there's something wrong with Larry Pearson's car. He went high again in turn 4. He went high in turns 1 and 2. He might have a tire going down or something because Earnhardt went around him. Then Dale Jarrett went around him. Rob Moroso is the leader. Earnhardt has moved up to second. Jarrett in third.
Now Larry Pearson appears to be back. No, not quite. This car is still not running as to where it was a few laps ago. Mike Alexander passes number 84. Here comes Tommy Houston in the 6 machine and Jimmy Hensley in the 5. Larry Pearson is losing ground.
Tough break. Boy, he's had a bad year after winning the championship 2 years in a row. Here's Jack Ingram moving around him, but Pearson just can't get things to go his way all day. I mean, he has run good in most every race this year, but he's just had all kind of problems.
What's the problem, Jerry?
Well, I think they may have a right front tire going down on Pearson's car. He's radioed in. He's going to try to make it a few laps and see, but the tire apparently leaking down very slowly. The car said it just wouldn't handle. Got off the loose in the corners. They're standing by, and Larry Pearson now getting ready to make an entry on the pit road.
He's headed your way, Jerry, so we're going to throw it back to you to call this pit stop.
Larry Pearson brings the car to a halt at the field now, coming through turn 3 and 4. Right side tires apparently going on the Pearson car here, and the Jack Henry car. Pearson revs the engine in the back there. Wants to get off the road as soon as possible. 2 tires on, 14.5 seconds. Pearson down and away.
Larry Pearson comes back out on the racetrack. There's a great battle for the lead as Dale Earnhardt and Rob Moroso slug it out. This is perhaps David against Goliath here, as David right now, number 25, also known as Rob Moroso, tries to hold off the veteran and Winston Cupper, Dale Earnhardt.
Larry Pearson did go one lap down during that pit stop, but Moroso now, when he looks in the mirror and sees that black and silver number 8 it is, that has to be an intimidating situation, but he's holding on, Bob.
Well, Rob is showing some real class here in staying ahead of Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt, I would think, is not playing with Rob, so to speak. He'd like to get around him and just pull away and put this one in the bag, but he's unable to do so. Moroso doing a nice job of holding him off.
Yes, he is. He's doing a very good job. Earnhardt tried down on the inside. That didn't work. Cost him a couple of car lengths, but he's right back on him again.
So the question becomes, can Rob Moroso win his first Busch Grand National race? Now here's Earnhardt pulling alongside and challenging in turn number 2, but once again, Moroso, it looks very strong.
But Earnhardt just drives her deeper into the turn.
And he finally gets the top spot. Earnhardt now moves into the lead. Rob Moroso back to second.
And while they were battling, Dale Jarrett and Tommy Houston has almost Tommy Ellis has almost caught up to him. So we'll see battling for all of those positions here very shortly.
There is Dale Earnhardt, who has taken the lead of the Budweiser 200 Busch Grand National race. And let's get a report from Larry Newber on the problem involving Harry Gant.
Well, I'm with Ed Whitaker, who is the car owner for Harry Gant. Lots of discussion going on down here in the Harry Gant Ed Whitaker crew as to what might have happened. I had an opportunity to talk with Ed just a couple of seconds ago. We asked you, did you officially lose a lap?
Yeah, they said we passed up.
It seemed like a mighty close call. How could something like that happen? He was leading the race. We were under yellow. Still, they said he passed the caution car.
Well, apparently the pickup in the gas tank moved and it stopped picking up all the fuel because it had enough fuel to go all the way.
In asking about the call, though, do you and Harry feel as though you did pass the caution flag? Was it an accurate call?
I'll have to look at the tape to see. I don't know.
Okay, Harry made the last-minute decision to not go the distance net. That may be the final analysis here what cost him this race.
Very well be, Larry, but it did appear that he did pass the caution car before he came into the pits.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. He clearly passed the pace car, pitting on the backstretch. The pace car was along the front stretch here, but he clearly did pass the pace car. There's Earnhardt, who continues to lead, and we have a spin in turn number 2. Larry Pollard spins to the inside, raises a cloud of dust and a cloud of smoke, but he is able to keep the car running. And we have no caution flag, no caution on the racetrack, as Pollard has gotten the car pointed in the right direction and is still running.
There might have been a little oil or something over there because the lap before, Mike Alexander had gotten out of trouble. Now Dale Jarrett is in trouble off of turn 4.
Jarrett making hard contact with the wall up in turn number 4. The front end of that car is shoved in very significantly. Dale, however, is able to get the car going again. But boy, the front end of that car is a mess.
Yes, it is. He rammed into the wall. I didn't see the start of that wreck, but something happened that he went in there and lost control, and the front end hit the wall first, of course.
Unfortunate, because Dale was right up there amongst the leaders. I think he was running in 3rd position when the incident occurred.
He was. He was making a charge on trying to get around the Rob Moroso car. Now Jarrett brings his Portaloo Bosemobile into the pit area, and they'll go to work and see if he is able to. Well, no, he's decided to stay out there that lap. I guess he's catching up to the field before he comes in, but I don't know, Bob. It looks like there's a little too much damage there for him to continue and be competitive. However, he's still going around.
Let's go down to the Harry Gant pit once again, Larry.
Well, Bob, Harry Gant has to pull out all the stops now. He's got to make this car go as fast as he possibly can in a shorter period of time as he possibly can. They're going to change the right side tires. As soon as that yellow flag came out, Harry got on the radio right away to Jim Harmon and said, let's change the right-hand side. I need to be as quickly as I possibly can. Rob Moroso, who's also been running among the leaders, has also chosen to make a pit stop underneath this yellow.
This is a bit of a surprise. They're changing the rubber on the left side of that car. Rob Moroso in the pits.
I think they changed the right side earlier, Bob, and that would be a good move to save 2 of your new tires that you can put on sometime during the race to the later stages. And left tires are very important here at the Bristol International Raceway. It has a lot to do with the handling characteristics of a car. So They looked a little unprepared when they came into the pits, but now they are getting them changed. Of course, they should be able to get him back out before the green comes in. Also, a good move by Harry Gant's crew, bringing him in now. He'll get to move on the inside of the double lane restart, and now they're going to change the left side tires, so he'll have 4 new tires. He might get his lap back and get back in the thick of this battle.
Well, he stands a good chance of getting the lap back when we go back to green. As you can see, the tires being changed on the left side of the Harry Gant car. Before we go back to green, we'll take another break and be right back to Bristol International Raceway. NASCAR Busch Grand National racing on this Saturday afternoon from Bristol International Raceway in Bristol, Tennessee. The leader of this race is Dale Earnhardt. You know, this is a very demanding racetrack. We talked about how demanding it is on the race cars. A lot of damage can be sustained to the car, and also the driver comfort in mind. Here is a quick fact. Has, always will.
The helmet tops off the list of all the interior customizing that is necessary here at Bristol for driver comfort. It's as light a weight as the driver feels safe with. Everyone uses the shoulder strap. I'm sitting in the seat as it normally is positioned. Here is the Bristol location. The seat has been customized. Extra pieces are added on. Some of the drivers choose to use the horse collar to further aid the neck muscles in keeping the neck upright. At the beginning of the piece, I said this was all done for driver comfort. Not right. It's driver necessity.
Well, it certainly is driver necessity, and there is a lot of strain on a driver here. There's a lot of G-forces and a lot of centrifugal force as they go into the turns here, and a driver who had a stressful situation is with Jerry Punch.
Well, Dale Jarrett sitting here on the pit wall trying to get his breath, and Dale, a tough break for you. What happened out there?
Well, Jerry, there's somebody out there putting down something all over the racetrack, whether it's rear end grease or oil or something. I almost lost it in one about 2 laps before that. I was trying to find where the grease was, but you know, a couple other cars almost spun out. It just so happened that I did, and you know, for no reason at all, messed up a perfectly good race car that's very capable of winning this race. We had the Portaloo Oldsmobile running extremely well. I really think I had a shot at beating Earnhardt there. We were just trying to saving our tires to the end, and just one of those things.
Took a pretty hard lick up there. You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay. It didn't hit that hard, just hard enough to knock us out of the race. Just Bristol.
That sums it up. Just Bristol.
Good closing comment by Dale. That's just Bristol, and that, as Jerry said, sums it up pretty good. Good crowd on hand here this afternoon for our Busch Grand National race, to which we will be back in just a moment. Comes back out on the Budweiser 200 on lap number 173. 27 more laps of this 0.533-mile circuit. The Budweiser 200 will be history. Dale Earnhardt is the leader of the race. Second is Tommy Ellis. And in third position as cars scramble up there in corner number 4, Larry Pearson, way out of shape, but he saved it.
There he is, and he's going into turn 1 and up against the wall, and a lot of cars spinning around. The car number 575, Harry Gant, slid sideways, but he's going to be able to get around okay. But
Ed Barrier's involved. Brad Teague was in that. So was Rob Moroso, Patty Moise. Everybody gets going again, but Pearson sustained some damage on that car. We'll take a look at it again.
As he goes into turn 1, of course, he was in trouble on turn 4, but he goes into turn 1, the back end just simply breaks loose. Around he goes. That's Tommy Houston directly behind him in the white car. Houston gets just enough of him to spin around in front of the other cars, and so much of the field were behind him, and they used the racetrack up, Bob, and there was simply nowhere for some of these cars to go. And you see Gant, right? He bumps Larry Pearson as Pearson has spun all the way around, but Gant does get his car slowed down enough just to put a little bit of a bump on him, and so he does come on around, although Gant is still a lap down as a result of the penalty earlier.
Well, Larry Pearson moving into the pit area once again with a damaged front end, and the left front is flat on the car, so he comes in for some cosmetic changes to that machine. Right behind him is Jimmy Hensley, and here's Jerry Punch.
Well, what's left of Larry Pearson's car comes rolling down pit road, and now they will kind of go to work and make some semblance of a race car out of it. Working on the left front of the car, of course, is Ricky Pearson, Larry's younger brother, and Ricky pulls that left front wheel off, and there's a lot of steam coming out from the engine compartment. Possibly they are concerned about the radiator. Of course, the front of that grill being pushed in some 6 or 7 inches. This Monte Carlo looks more like a Chevette right now. It sits on pit road. Larry Pearson sits in the car dejectedly, looking around, patting his helmet, wondering when this luck's going to change. What an dismal year he's had. And now they take a sledgehammer on the left rear of the car. Mike Hill trying to beat sheet metal out, moving around Larry Pearson and Jimmy Hensley car. They are working on every single corner of this car. Poor day for Larry Pearson. What a tough race.
There were some of us, Ned, that thought perhaps this was the beginning of the end of the bad streak for Larry Pearson since he qualified for the pole, but not so.
Not so. He's really had his problems here today after being so strong in the early part of the race. Let's take a look at it again at the real speed as they were going into the turn. And you can see Larry Pearson. The back end just simply goes out from under him. Tommy Houston clips him. Jack Ingram does get through, but everybody else had nowhere to go because the racetrack was used up with race cars spinning all over the place.
And that's a perfect example of Bristol International Raceway. Visibility ahead of you is very, very limited. Back with more right after this. The green comes out at Bristol International Raceway, and we are back to racing. Now, that's Harry Gant of the green car to the inside, and he had an opportunity there to get the lap back, but just did not have the muscle as the green flag dropped. And so Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Tommy Ellis is running in second position. Ellis in the red car.
Harry Gant got off to a very poor start there, Bob. I don't know if he missed a gear or what the situation was, but he did have an opportunity to get back in the lead lap, but he just couldn't do it. Now he's about to spin it out. He almost loses the car. He gets it gathered back in, but he is way behind the leaders now, and L.D. Otter is going around him to third place.
Well, let's go to Larry Newber with a report on Harry Gant.
Well, keep in mind, Bob and Ned, that Harry had much newer tires than Dale, and they felt here in the pits that they might have had a real potential advantage. They felt they were going to be significantly faster than Dale. They were going to get that lap back right away. With all the yellows that fly here at Bristol, he really might have had the upper hand. Now we understand that Harry is coming in. Harry has slowed significantly on this restart. He's headed down toward pit road. No, his speed is trying to Wilson out. Remember, Harry has remained down, and we have a spin turn number 2. Ed Barrier.
Barrier slides to the inside on the back stretch. Ed keeps the car going, however, and we will not have a caution, so another spin, but no caution.
I started to say it would be a break for Harry Gant, but not so, since Ed Barrier was able to get his car righted, and he comes on around and keeps racing.
And here's a replay. It happened once again coming off the second corner into the backstretch.
Well, Ed Barrier down on the inside following 4 other cars, and the back end gets loose. He tries to correct it, overcorrects, around she goes. And here's a pack of cars coming around on the outside.
And another angle of the crash, this from our camera inside in turn number 3.
And you can see the back end just simply went around. He could not save it. The racetrack is very slick right now. Dale Jarrett pointed out that there was some grease or something being put down by some cars. We've seen cars slipping and sliding all over the racetrack.
And there is the leader, Dale Earnhardt, lapping Larry Pearson, who was so strong in the early stages of this race, and we've only got 15 more circuits to go. Third, fourth, and fifth position here, L.D. Ottinger, Jack Ingram, and Rob Moroso.
Well, Ingram moves around L.D. Ottinger pretty easily now. Here's Rob Moroso trying to move on the inside, but L.D. says, look, I'm going to use that 5 car to my advantage. And the 5 car is being driven by Jimmy Hensley. He's one of the cars that was in the lead lap, but he was involved in that accident over there when Larry Pearson spun out, and his car is certainly not running up to par.
So Ottinger and Moroso going at it here for third position. There's Moroso, who was a leader earlier in the event. Also racing with this group is the yellow number 84, driven by Mike Alexander, and the black number 14, driven by Ronnie Silver, as now LD lengthens and opens it up just a little bit.
And, of course, the 84 car, Mike Alexander, is 1 lap down as a result of the spin earlier, and the car number 14 lost many laps in the pits, but he's LD Ottinger loses it in turn 2.
And another car spins. Ronnie Silver also loops behind LD. LD took a pretty good shot.
Yes, he did. You can see the left front of the Detroit Gasket Buick all banged up, and Ronnie Silver, who was out just trying to make laps, and he had lost a lot of laps earlier, and he was just trying to gain as many points as he possibly can, but he was right in the middle of that situation.
Well, let's take another look at it, and once again, it's in turn number 2, Ned. That's where most of the accidents have been this afternoon.
It has. It has to be oil on that track, as LD was out by himself. No other car close to him, and the back end just simply goes out from under him, just the way that we saw Ed Barrier just a moment ago, and Dale Jarrett apparently up on turn 4. So there is a lot of grease and oil out on that racetrack right now. You see LD out in front of the pack, and the back end just simply goes out from under him.
And everybody else doing a nice job of avoiding, but unfortunately Ronnie Silver was kind of squeezed and had to get on the binders, and he too spins to the inside. So a lot of damage to the Ottinger car. However, no serious problems. They are going to have to clean up the debris on the backstretch, however, before we get a resumption of this race. So the yellow is out for the 9th time on lap number 191, and we'll be back with the finish of this event in just a moment. 96, and Dale Earnhardt has the leader with Tommy Ellis second, Jack Ingram third, Rob Moroso fourth, and Ed Barrier is in fifth. However, only the first 4 cars are on the lead lap. This completes lap number 196. We've got 4 more laps to go in this one, and Dale Earnhardt seems to be in command. Tommy Ellis is running in second as the rest of the field files through turns number 1 and 2. There's Earnhardt down the backstretch into the 3rd turn, and Ellis is about 4 car lengths behind.
The measure of Ellis as far as the handling is concerned, but Bob, there might be some question whether Earnhardt can go all the way on fuel. In his early spin, there was damage done to the inlet where they put gas in, and they were not able to get any in, so he's really sweating it out whether he can go all the way, but he's only got a couple more laps to go.
He's got 2.5 more circuits of this racetrack here at Bristol to complete before the checkered flag comes out. There's the interval between first and second. Harry Gant is the 3rd car there in the picture. However, he is not on the lead lap. As a matter of fact, he is 2 laps down in the 8th position. Now, we remind you that Earnhardt was involved in an incident on the racetrack earlier in the event. However, he did not lose a lap and appears to be on his way to victory as he has less than a lap to go now before the Budweiser 200 trophy is his. Down the backstretch, Dale Earnhardt, who of course will be one of the favorites in tomorrow's Valleydale Meets 500 Winston Cup race, comes off of corner number 4, and Dale Earnhardt wins the Budweiser 200. Tommy Ellis finishes in 2nd position. Jack Ingram is 3rd, and in 4th is going to be Rob Moroso. There's the happy Goodrich crew of Dale Earnhardt, who waves to the fans and our camera in turn number 3, giving us the okay. Nice win for Dale Earnhardt, who ran this race for the most part without a back bumper, and that's not an easy thing to do here on this kind of a racetrack. So we'll be back to visit with Dale Earnhardt in Victory Lane in just a moment, as Dale has won it all in Bristol. Budweiser 200, Dale Earnhardt, Tommy Ellis, Jack Ingram, Rob Moroso, and Jimmy Spencer. Earnhardt, the 6th winner in as many races in Busch Grand National competition. Our winner's circle difference. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, the Earnhardt family once again at Victory Lane. Dale on the left and Teresa on the right. Of course, and Dale, congratulations on a super run.
Thank you. You know, thank the good Lord for a good, safe race today. And this GM Parts Chevrolet really ran good all day. You know, we've had a little trouble with this car getting it to work like we wanted to at different racetracks. And Jake Eller and Tony Urick really worked hard on it to get the car tuned up for here. And Tony and Rick did a good job with the car all week here in practice and qualifying. Felt like confident we had a good, steady, competitive race car, and the Fisher engine ran good all day. So, you know, we just got our brakes are at the end. We got a bad brake at one time, spun on the back stretch, and the car still ran good with flat spotted tires on. And once we got the 4 new ones on about the 106th lap there or so, and the car really ran good from there on. It just sort of trying to stay out of trouble from then on, just run consistent.
Well, Dale Earnhardt back in the pack, and as Ned Jarrett said, some of the moves he made coming to the front, no one but Dale Earnhardt could do them, and he came home to Victory Lane. Dale Earnhardt wins at Bristol.
Well, it was his 12th win in 52 starts on the Busch Grand National Circuit. A very good run for the modified national champion, Jimmy Spencer, finishing 5th, his highest finish ever in this, Bob. So we'll see more of him in the future.
Slam bang affair here in stock car racing this afternoon. Tonight's slam bang action on the ice.
250.